Good morning. I'm Diana Nessel, co-president of the Pleasantville Middle School and co-vice president of the high school PCO. Together with all the parent groups, we're excited to welcome you to our first 22-23 budget forum. Today's presenters include Dr. Desa, John Chow, the 3 building principals, and Cameron Faggio. They will be explaining in detail the proposed budget, including the HVAC project and bond. I'd like to mention we're also going to be having a live meeting this Thursday at 7 p.m. in the high school. Without further ado, I will turn it over to Dr. Tina Desa.
Thank you, Ms. Nessel. Appreciate the introduction and appreciate the partnership with all of the parent groups to bring our community the 22-23 budget forums. As was mentioned, this was our first one, our virtual one, 10 a.m. this morning, and we will be doing a live in-person budget forum on Thursday evening at 7 p.m. at the high school auditorium. So good morning and welcome to our budget forum. We're so happy that you decided to spend some time with us learning about the 22-23 budget. We feel very fortunate to be in a school district with a community that is so invested in its future, our students. Our goal today is to provide an overview of the 22-23 budget and the middle school HVAC bond project, and allow some time at the end for us to answer any questions that you may have. One second. Thank you. Let me see if it works. Yeah, okay, great. So first, we'd like you to know that the budget is designed around our efforts to actualize our mission. Our mission outlines what we are aspiring to do and the learning environment we are striving for. We also have a district goal around our fiscal responsibility. It ascribes to maintain academic excellence while striving to have community input. So again, thank you for being here with us this morning. Our budget is designed to support our current strategic plan and implementation of it. Our strategic plan is broken up into 6 strategies, of which the first 3 are leadership, curriculum, and wellness. And the last 3 are communication, infrastructure and resources, and partnership. The budget calendar pretty much runs nonstop throughout the school year. We begin planning with conversations in August before the school year even begins, talking about next school year. And that carries us through pretty much January and February, where we're developing those conversations into some numbers. By March, we have a superintendent's proposed budget that's presented to the board. And all throughout March and the beginning of April, we will have budget presentations. After these presentations, the board will hopefully adopt the budget in April. And finally, in May, there will be a public hearing followed by the budget vote. So far, in terms of presentations, we've had our budget preview in January, the proposed budget in the beginning of March, and at our last board meeting, we had our 3 building principals talk about the school level budgets. At our next board meeting, we'll hear from special education, technology, and athletics. And so on from there, the next presentation will be the non-instructional budget. And then again, April and May will lead us to adoption, the public hearing, and then the annual budget vote. We're very proud of this 22-23 budget. It supports the four pillars of a school budget, including class size, program, infrastructure, and contractual obligations. We have all the necessary personnel included in this budget to support those 4 pillars. We have also provided for expanded instructional technology support services. We have strengthened and updated our technology infrastructure, miraculously are able to support a middle school HVAC bond with no tax impact, all coming in below the tax cap. This is truly a great thing for our students, our staff, and our community. So I'll begin by talking a little bit about some of the major personnel changes that you'll see in the 22-23 budget. The first is a permanent sub at BRS and the middle school. I'll allow the principals to expand upon that. We also have a science teacher, 7 through 12, grades 7 through 12. We have 2 assistant coaches. These are for our boys and girls varsity basketball teams so that they can have assistant coaches. We're also looking to support the district office with 1 support staff member. In terms of reductions, there are 3 teacher aide positions that we are reducing in the budget. They are not filled. They are teacher aide positions that we are removing from the budget. So those are the major personnel changes. And Mr. Chow is going to talk about how much of each budget is typically taken up by personnel. So this is a very important part of the presentation and of the budget. So I will turn it over to Mr. Chow to talk about the total budget and what we are proposing for this year.
Well, thank you. So our proposed budget for the 22-23 budget year is $57,712,488. This is the amount that all the taxpayers will have the opportunity to vote on. And we want to, through various opportunities, for example, today's budget forum, to explain to you what are the changes and why are those changes. So the budget change is the budget to budget increase is 7.2%. It is a very high number and therefore it's highlighted. But you can also see we have a footnote. It says that it includes a one-time use of fund balance to capital project, which does not impact the tax levy. So the next line you see our tax levy increase is 1.72. So throughout this budget, we will explain to you why the budget change has to be 7.2% and why the tax levy change is 1.72. And our tax cap is 2.11%. And the tax cap, as you know, that has been in existence for 10 years now. And the law stated very clearly that we have to come either at 2% or below the tax cap, 2% and or your actual tax cap, whichever is lower. Can we turn to the next? Okay, so now we go to the expenditure budgets. So this is a summary of all the major items. And as you can see, the most expensive to the school district are the 2 top items. One is the salaries, one is the employee benefits. They usually represent over 70% of the total budget of a school district. And you can see for salaries, we have an increase of over $500,000. And then for employee benefits, we have an increase of over $600,000. And the next highest increase is contractual. So for salaries and benefits, Dr. Desai already talked about we're going to have some new increases for personnel. That accounts for part of the salary increase. The other part is obviously the salary increase that's contractual. So that made up for the over $500,000 increase. And when it comes to the employee benefits, there are 2 factors represent a large increase. One is the TRS is going up by 5%. And the largest part is actually the health insurance. We are part of the New York State Health Insurance Consortium. And that consortium, the increase is at 12%, which is a very hefty increase. And contractual increase, you see over $500,000. And we will have the opportunity on the 29th to talk about part of it is because of the increase in the technology department. And we'll talk about it later on today and also in detail on the 29th. So the other part, we are presenting a balanced budget. So the other part is the revenues. And if you could look at the total proposed revenue and the total proposed expenditures, they are exactly the same. So we're presenting a balanced budget. And here I want to highlight three items. One is the real property taxes. Again, property taxes is the highest number, represent the highest percentage of the total revenue. And that's very similar to all the school districts in Westchester. And the other part is the state revenue, state source. We actually got a large increase in the foundation aid that we'll talk about in April, on April 5th, when we talk about revenues. And the last part I want to mention is the appropriation of fund balance. So that made up close to $2 million. These are new money. And these are the funds that we have to move from unassigned fund balance and from bond anticipation, the bond reserve to support the middle school HVACs. And that makes up the $2 million. But again, they do not have an impact on the tax levy.
Thank you.
Okay, so we want to go into the details of the transfer to capital funds. These are the money that is in the general fund, in the proposed budget. But after the voters approved, they will be moved into the capital funds for capital funds purpose. For current year, we dedicated $455,000. $255,000 is to the middle school unit ventilator, and $200,000 is to remove the middle school fuel tank, which is in the works. And for next year, again, we propose $455,000 to dedicate to the middle school HVAC project. So this is the exact amount as the 21-22. So this has no impact on the budget itself. And then the two separate parts, one is $600,000 to be transferred into the middle school HVAC project, and $1.3 million also to the HVAC projects. And the last one, $1.3 million, is coming from the unassigned fund balance. Okay, so this is the tax cap calculations. I want to highlight that last year, the CPI number is 4.7%, but because of the tax cap law only allows the CPI number or 2%, whichever is lower. So we are only able to use the 2% for the calculations. And this is a pretty complicated complication, but all the items are listed. At the end, the important numbers to know is that the total tax cap we're allowed to go up is 2.11%. As we indicated earlier, our tax cap with this budget is 1.72. So we are pretty far below the tax cap. So this shows you the most recent budgets. And so when you look at the budget to budget increase, is a very, very large increase at 7.2%. But when you look at the tax levy increase is 1.72, is more in line with the previous budgets.
Now we'll turn it over to Ms. Hunger, who will talk to us a little bit about the Bedford Road School budget.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. So I'm here to talk a bit about the Bedford Road School budget. As you can see up here, we have a projected enrollment next year of 551 students. We feel very fortunate that we are at a stable place with enrollment and look forward to supporting our students next year. As Dr. Desam mentioned, one of the proposed staffing changes is for a permanent substitute teacher. And we are proposing that here at BRS. The value that a permanent substitute teacher can bring is to bring continuity to students for those unforeseen situations. We've learned a lot in the pandemic over the past couple of years, and being able, in the case where a classroom teacher would need to be absent for an extended period of time, the ability to bring somebody into the classroom to provide that consistency for our children is key. In addition, because this person would be part of our staff, they'd be familiar with our procedures, they'd be part of learning with our staff, and they would know the students. And we really feel that that would be an added asset to our school. Under materials and supplies, as you can see, some of the pictures that we have up here, we're so happy that this area goes to continue to support all of our related arts areas, such as our amazing art program. For any of you that know Miss Sis, just to highlight her area as one of many fabulous related arts areas that we're fortunate enough to have. We're also looking forward to this year. We've done some work and used this area just to help support working with our students, specifically around our ELA. We feel very fortunate this year to have leveled ELA curricular materials that have been able to come in to support students no matter where they're at. We have a formation of a curriculum team here at BRS. We meet on a consistent basis, and we're looking forward to expanding that as we move forward into the 2022-23 school year. We're also hopeful and looking ahead that as we look at our furniture, that we will be in a place where we're able to bring more rugs back into the classroom and bring back some of our collaborative furniture as well. And we're using that under our materials and supplies budget. Under our contractual services, the first thing that you'll see up there is around conferences. And as we're supporting getting in new curriculum materials here at BRS, we want to also make sure that we're prioritizing providing professional development for our teachers so that they're ready to support the instruction that comes along with this. You'll also see under there, we're looking forward to it because we have our peek into kindergarten tomorrow night. And under here, we have our testing support for our incoming kindergarten screening. And it's a process that we look forward to every year in the spring as we get to meet and welcome our newest families and get to meet at that point, their 4 and 5 year olds, but our newest members of BRS. And this part of our budget goes to supporting that process as well. Similarly, under the line of professional development and BOCES, I spoke a little bit about wanting to bring in professional development just to help support our teaching staff with some of the new curriculum materials that we're looking under that line. We also see our BOCES services under here, and probably one of the biggest highlights that come in under this area is our cultural arts programs. We are so fortunate to have a partnership with so many BOCES services and organizations that come in. The example that I provided last week was we had Native American songs come in for our 4th graders as they were part of their Native American unit. So it really helps to enhance our curriculum. The kids look forward to it. The teachers look forward to it. They get to create really awesome things and they get to experience some things. We've had animals come in the building. We've had really passionate people come to speak to us as well. Also under here, you will see our Science 21 materials. Our Science 21 is the program that we use in our 3rd and 4th grade. And this line goes to supporting some of the consumable hands-on experiences that our kids have as part of that program. And under our capital improvement, we're looking forward to adding additional water filling stations. We've certainly taken advantage of those with all of our water bottles around the school recently, and we're looking forward to having some more additions. The BRS building, when it was built 20 years ago, was built with chalkboards. Some rooms have a chalkboard in the front of the room as well as the back of the room, and we're looking to take a phased approach, meaning a grade level at a time, or a few classrooms at a time, of taking that and turning them into whiteboards as well as bulletin boards. This will give us an opportunity to display more student work, to display more charts, and making it a more meaningful learning space for our students. Similarly, the classrooms have blinds in them, and looking at the replacement of some of our classroom blinds that need that, again, in a phased approach of picking select classrooms over a year-to-year plan before that project is fully complete.
Thank you, Ms. Hunger. We'll turn it over to Mr. Mara to talk about Pleasantville Middle School.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Don Mara. I am the proud principal of Pleasantville Middle School. This slide is an overview of our projected enrollment for next year. We are not projecting any substantial changes in terms of enrollment next year. And these numbers are based on the current enrollment of each grade level in addition to projected new registrants. The new registrant number is based on a 5-year average of how many families typically register in the summer and throughout the year. Next year, we are requesting, as Dr. Desam mentioned, a 0.52 additional staff member for 7 through 12 science. As many of you know, John Koziel retired after a 40-year career as a part-time earth science teacher last year. we hired Mr. Jake Sabloski for that role in the spring of 2021. He's done an exceptional job. We felt with a 8th grade graduating class that's larger than average, we feel it's prudent to increase that role in the event that an additional section of earth science is needed at the high school. And we would also like Mr. Sabloski to take on a more administrative role in our highly successful Science Olympiad program. Our Science Olympiad numbers are growing. We had almost 40 students participate this year in grades 6 through 8. And we look forward to him helping us with that. And we're also adding a permanent substitute position, as Ms. Hunger mentioned, with a sub shortage during COVID and teacher absences substantially increasing. It highlighted the need for a consistent person in the building to fill that role. We're incredibly proud of our programs. Materials and supplies don't just provide core content classes with what they need in terms of daily supplies, such as textbooks and workbooks, etc. They also supply our quads, our specials programs with materials for hands-on collaborative work, like some that you see in these photos. Lego robotics and MakerBots in STEAM, clay and paint in art, food, and some cookware in home skills, and some Steps A materials for health. Also pocket constitutions for our new 8th grade civics quad. These courses are very unique to our Pleasantville Middle School and allow our students to participate in hands-on activities, which is a welcomed break from some screen time during the school day. As I mentioned, our Steps A program is terrific and supported entirely by the district. Steps A, some of our vendors are from clinical social workers are a part of our contractual services. We also have professional organizations that our teachers and administrators participate in that help support our work as leaders and educators. Some of the photos you see are also taken of our front sign, which is new, and our renovated courtyard. So contractual services also help to keep our grounds looking fantastic. This slide highlights a few of the partnerships and organizations that we are a part of. One Action Collaborative Network, which is new to us, gives us access to evidence-based professional learning. They also facilitate wonderful leadership development and monthly meetings with member districts where systemic strategies are shared in promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. This part of the budget also supports the educational programs that our students experience, such as our annual 7th grade Sharp Reservation trip, as you can see here in this photo. Some of the activities our students participate in there are fishing, Native American dance, pond study, journal writing, sensory trail, and obstacle courses. And we look forward to continuing that tradition for many years to come. And lastly, capital improvements. The HVAC project in middle school has been a conversation for as long as I have been here, and that's a long time. I greatly appreciate the board for putting that on the ballot, and for Dr. Assad and Mr. Chow for explaining what that project may look like. This slide also highlights some capital improvements that are a little bit more building based, such as the outdoor classroom that I co-wrote with the PTA garden volunteers and our curriculum coordinators, where you can see here in this photo, a 30 by 30 gravel base would be needed to support the expansion of a middle school outdoor classroom. COVID highlighted the need for some additional outdoor space, and we look forward to having that project completed over the summer. Mr. Palumbo.
Great.
Hello and good morning. Excited to be here today. Thank you for joining us. My name is Joe Palumbo. I am the proud principal here at Pleasantville High School. The numbers on this screen outline the anticipated enrollment for the upcoming school year. We do have about a 4% increase for the upcoming year. We're excited about that. It's a big 9th grade class. Thank you, Mr. Mara, for setting up that big group to the high school. And we have about 10 students joining us from the Botanical Hills School District as well, which we're very excited about. The next slide outlines some of the staffing and instructional work that will be taking place at the high school next year. The high school is a little different than the other two buildings. Students have a significant amount of choice during the day as far as their academic programs go. We offer over 280 unique courses each year. Those courses are available to students in over 415 sections that take place during our 9-period day. And one of the questions I'll typically get is around course load. Our students here at the high school take about 6 or 7 classes each. We encourage all of our students to have a lunch period, so that would be one period. And obviously the lab science adds another period to our courses as well. One other thing I want to emphasize is the work that our counseling team does throughout the school year and during the summer months. Our counselors work in June and July on a part-time basis. They come in on a rotating schedule to assist families in the finalization of academic programs for the upcoming school year. Another focus in terms of our staffing, I wanted to point out the family workshops, the work that our SAS counselors do, and some of the new building safety features that we have here at the high school. Our counseling department provides opportunities for members of our community to engage in learning throughout the year, whether it's around the college process, career opportunities, or wellness. We try to engage all members of our school community in conversations with them throughout the year. Our SAS counselor, we've got a new one this year, Ms. Burchell. She also hosts community programs, geared towards prevention and education for families. And then our K through 12 counselor, which was a new add this year, really in all 3 buildings, has been working in advisory groups. I'd also like to point out that we have a safety officer who's currently working in the building. It's part of this year's budget, but it'll be also included in next year's budget as a maintenance item. And she is here during the after school hours. The high school is a very busy place. When that bell rings at the end of the day, it's our community center. The auditorium is used by all 3 buildings and community associations. So it's great to have her on board. And I want to thank Mr. Chow and members of the Board of Education and Dr. Desa for their support in helping to make our building even safer than it already was. So a big driver in our school budget is our materials and our supplies. The resources for learning have changed over the years. We do currently use text resources, and we also use online resources. I believe the sweet spot in education is a mix between the online tools and the paper tools. So you will find children coming home with some textbooks, and you'll also find them with the ability to access online materials. In our art, science, English, math, and world language courses, we do have consumables that students use. In a science class, that would look like the materials for labs. In our English and our world language and our math courses, that would look like workbooks and journals that students bring home. And in art and music, that would look like the supplies that students use in the classroom. We had a wonderful run with our school play this weekend. It culminated on Saturday with a final performance of Fiscal. Wanted to highlight that because you'll see here there is information about the fine and performing arts. We really enjoy watching students excel on the stage here at Pleasantville High School, whether they're playing instruments or performing in shows. This week, we've got our Festival of Strings. We encourage all members of the community to attend if you can. It's here at the high school. And then we have some new course offerings that we're very excited about this upcoming school year. Specifically, we are looking at a computer science pathway. We are going to be offering a new computer science principles course for our 9th grade students. It's already well subscribed. Students in grades 10, 11, and 12 can also sign up for that course, in addition to the computer science A course that we've run historically. And we've added a course for students who previously completed that advanced placement class. That'll be our cybersecurity class. The intended students for that class will be our senior students. In terms of a new course in AP research, we introduced a course this year in that regard, and we're going to introduce a second course in the upcoming school year. It's the AP seminar class. I encourage all families to have a conversation with their students and their counselor about the options here at the high school. Our counselors are working with students and families right now to get all of those course selections in so that we can begin to develop the best master schedule to meet the needs of all of our students here at high school, at Pleasantville High School. And of course, that's all supported, in this budget process. In terms of professional development, as we offer new courses, we certainly provide teachers with new training. That includes training for AP courses and dual enrollment courses. We send folks in our faculty away for training each year. Additionally, members of our English, science, math, social studies, world language, fine and performing arts departments travel to national and state conferences each year. Those are important opportunities for professional learning. And I would say, thanks to Dr. Fadjo and the work that he's done, with our digital infrastructure here, that learning doesn't stop after folks attend those national and state conferences. Many of our teachers stay connected with colleagues across the country and even in different countries, vis-a-vis these online tools after these conference opportunities. So again, a great piece of our work here that is supported, by the budget in Pleasantville. And then facilities and equipment. Our show was great this past week. I mentioned that a moment ago. And I want to point out that our lights for the show, many of them were rented. We are looking at a full lighting project. That lighting project is actually covered in this year's budget. And we're excited to move forward with that. We may look at some sound equipment in the future years, but certainly a driver, in terms of our expenses as far as facilities equipment at the high school goes. Just like the middle school and the elementary school, we will be adding some new filling stations here at the high school. The goal is to have one of those on each one of our floors. The television studio will be updated. We're looking at new equipment. I believe when I spoke with Ms. Wallace, who runs our TV studio, the equipment that's currently being used to broadcast our educational access programming is over 16 years old. So the new equipment will provide us with a great opportunity to have some storage within the devices we're using, and it will certainly enhance the work that students are doing and the experience that viewers have on the other end. And finally, our fitness center, we do annual maintenance, and it's important that we keep that room up to par as far as safety goes. That room is widely used both during the school day and after the school day by our athletic teams and clubs and community organizations that come in. All obviously very important and supported by our budget here at Pleasantville. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palumbo and Mr. Mara and Ms. Hunger. Next area to talk about was, we talked a little bit about the contractual services line and some of the highlights of this budget, including an instructional technology support plan, along with the infrastructure to support it. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Fadjo, who's going to explain a little bit about what we're looking to do in our technology and instruction department.
Great, thank you. And so I think one of the things that we want to emphasize is that our technology usage is increasing. We're seeing a lot of additional instructional technologies being used. The number of devices we have has increased. And so as we continue to expand this work, we really want to think about maintaining and expanding our infrastructure. And that will be around adding a second internet access pipe to the district, which will help take care of internet traffic and increase overall internet speed, as well as upgrading our wireless access points. And that's something where we're looking to make a significant investment to make sure that the classroom experience is optimal for all of our students and teachers. As well as the second part here is around personnel. And the biggest area we've seen is increasing usage of instructional technologies. So we're looking to get the support of the board and the community for additional instructional technology support. And included in that personnel increase would be support around our data systems and our cybersecurity.
Thank you. We wanted to spend some time talking a little bit more about the middle school HVAC capital bond and what that is going to look like and what its impact will be on our budget line. So we're going to go back to Mr. Mara, who's going to talk to us a little bit about the rationale for why we need the HVAC capital bond.
Thanks, Dr. Desa. Well, as I mentioned, the HVAC at the middle school has been a conversation for a long time. And I greatly appreciate, again, the board putting this project on the ballot. We are currently the only building in the district without a building management system. And I'm hopeful that that changes soon. That building management system controls dehumidification, cooling, and heating. This project would effectively eliminate disruptions that we have due to the overwhelming heat in the building, particularly on the top floor adjacent to the track and field. Currently, when we have extreme heat in September and June, and sometimes even in May, we do have to relocate classes that are in those extreme temperature areas. And that is a clear disruption to everyone involved. And this project would improve our air quality, our comfort, and likely our output. In those areas where we have to relocate students are the cafeteria, the multi-purpose room, sometimes the inquiry lab. Those are larger areas where we have to sometimes consolidate and combine classrooms. So it is pretty disruptive, and it would be outstanding if this HVAC was approved. I think the ultimately it would just allow individual teachers to control their own climate areas. And I know Dr. Desad, Mr. Chow will explain that further. But this would keep us in line with the other two buildings, and I think would be just a great improvement to the overall quality of life in the building.
Thank you, Mr. Mara. So just to add to what Mr. Mara said, it's heating, cooling, dehumidification, as well as air circulation. So it really moves all of that air at the right temperature throughout the building. That's what the HVAC bond does. So I thought it would be helpful to take a look at the funding sources. This is a $6 million project. And really the money for the project has three sources. The first source is a federal grant of $1.3 million. With COVID, everyone has really come to realize and understand how important air circulation is. And so the federal government provided the opportunity for districts and states to apply for money. And our district applied to use $1.3 million in our ESSER funds towards this middle school HVAC project. There are also several sources coming out of the general fund. Some of this money was money that was allocated in the former $8.9 million bond for the middle school HVAC project in the sum of $600,000. A second source is money from the 21-22 budget in $255,000 sum. Next, we're allocating money from next year's budget, the 22-23 budget, of $455,000. And lastly, from the general fund, there's a $1.3 million fund balance. The third source is the bond that we're looking to pass in May by the voters, which is a $2 million sum loan that's paid back over $2 million. Anything to add on this slide?
I think the next slide will explain this much more clearly.
Okay. So the important piece is out of these three buckets per se of money to pay for the total $6 million, it's important to understand that exclusive of the ESSER fund, any money is paid out of the general fund and out of the bond come to us at a 5.1%. Oh my goodness, 51, thank you. So 51.6% aidable. So if you want to go into that a little bit more, thanks.
So Dr. Desam already talked about at the previous slide, there are three, when to support this $6 million bond, the project, not bond, $6 million project, there are three buckets. The first one is the federal grant, which was approved already and is dedicated to the middle school HVAC project. And the second and third bucket, the general fund, you want to go to the next one? Okay, so these are the ones, we just want to make a distinction. The federal fund, the 1.3 million is not subject to building aid because we cannot double dip. So the money is all free to us is dedicated to this project already. And then the balance of 4.6 million, we can, if we finish this project, first of all, we have to have this project approved by you, the voters. And then we finish the project and we file the reports, then we can get 51.6% back from the state. And it's over a 15-year period. And when we borrow the money, the $2 million is also through a 15-year period. So the two actually they will have a perfect match. So we pay out the money for the interest and the principal, and then we'll get the money from the state. And they are almost equal. The only part that we cannot guarantee is because we haven't done the borrowing. We don't borrow until next spring when the project is approved by the state, and we don't know what the interest rate will be. So if we have this bond of $2 million and we will get $2.3 million back from the state, pretty much it should be a balanced. There's no guarantee because we don't know what the interest rate will be. I think the important thing to take away from this project, from this part of the presentation, is that what we put forward to the voters will have budget impact for the next year, the 22-23. You saw there's a budget increase. The second takeaway is that there's no tax levy impact. There's no tax levy increase because of this proposition, the bond.
Thank you.
So on the ballot, May 17th, there will be 3 items, 3 propositions for the voters to consider. The first one is the budget itself. We already presented is a $57 million budget. And the second item is the establishment of a capital reserve fund, which the board already approved in November of 2021. That is going to be put forward to the voters for voters to approve. This will not have an impact on the budget itself because this will only be funded when we have leftover fund each year for the next 10 years. Why do we want this capital reserve fund? It's because hopefully if we establish this capital reserve fund, in the future, we have capital reserve, a capital project, capital needs. We don't have to come to the voters for a vote to ask for additional funds, whereas we already have put away the money for those projects. And the third one is the one that we have been explaining throughout this presentation is for the middle school HVAC capital project. The important thing to take away from this slide is budget. Obviously, it has a tax levy impact of 1.7%, but the second 2 items will have no tax levy impact.
Thank you. Okay, so just to review a couple of the highlights. Our budget for 22-23 includes all the necessary personnel that we talked about in those 4 pillars for infrastructure, for program, for contractual service, and for class sizes. It also expands our instructional technology support services, strengthens, updates, and expands our technology infrastructure, supports the middle school HVAC bond with no tax impact, and comes in below the allowable tax cap. As Mr. Chow indicated, allowable tax cap is 2.1, and we are coming in at 1.7%. So we wanted to open up the forum to any questions. So anyone who is watching the webinar can go ahead and type in questions, and we will do our best to answer them.
And so the question is, will any of the ESSER fund go towards summer learning? So I know where this question is coming from, because there are 3 federal grants that all the school districts are eligible to apply. And we have applied for the first two grants. They were supporting the school year and the summer program. So this particular ESSER fund, the 1.3 million, cannot go to the summer program. The reason is because when we apply, specifically we apply for the middle school HVACs. And I said earlier, it was approved already, so we cannot deviate from the original plan.
The second question comes in. I'm going to go back to this slide. The question is that we budgeted 2.6 million for HVAC and still need $2 million bond. So the important piece about the middle school HVAC process to understand is that this has been a known need in the district for quite some time. So there were different funding sources that had been previously allocated to do this project. However, when the $1.3 million became available, and one of the determined areas that you could invest in was your air circulatory / HVAC system, the district capitalized on, instead of doing this project in a piece by piece system, we chose to do it as a one-time project. So by combining this, we needed $6 million. So we used monies that were previously allocated. We used the federal grant. We're using monies from the 22-23 budget. We have fund balance money, and all of that only combined to be $4 million. So that's why we chose the bond to be for $2 million so that we could do this project all at once at the middle school.
I would like to add one more thing is that, as you may know, I'm actually new to the school district, but when I came here, I really was very impressed by the planning of the school district. Because if you look at it, look at the slide right now under the general fund, we're going to just do piecemeal. And so the planning started way before that we had the opportunity to apply for the ESSER fund. So you can see that in the bond that voters approved, the 8.9 million, it already has $600,000 dedicated to I would say fix the middle school HVAC issues that we are facing. And also in the proposed 21-22 and adopted budget, another 255,000 was dedicated. So just like Dr. Desai said, the original plans was doing this piecemeal. And when the ESSER funds became available and we got approval for it, that was a time we saw the opportunity to just combine all, make it into one. It's actually more prudent because the upfront cost will be lower. You don't have to plan every year to do a piece, and everything is combined. And also the shortage of 2 million, we'll borrow the money. And then when we get the state aid, it will pay for the bond, the principal and interest.
Do you want to talk a little bit more? I know that you're planning on doing your presentation on March 29th.
Okay.
29th?
Yes, 29th, correct.
March 29th, we'll be able to hear some more of the details around the technology budget and what that looks like and what we're supporting in terms of the technology piece.
Sure. So I think it's important to note that over the past few years, and really since the early 2010s, the district has made a concerted effort to really make technology and technology-infused instruction a central tenet of how we're approaching the education of our students. And really thinking about that investment over time, we've been investing in devices and we've been investing in professional development and support as we've continued to roll out this technology. And so with the pandemic, it added some additional dimensions to that work in terms of the technology that we added, particularly at the Bedford Road School. And we had already made a commitment as a district to do one-to-one devices for grades 5 through 12. So that's sort of where the financial piece comes in. But I think what we've heard from our building leaders as well as from the teachers is really that we want to continue to prepare our students to be ready for the future once they leave Pleasantville schools and they go off. And technology plays a fairly substantial role in that preparation. And so with this particular budget, what we're looking at is finding additional technology support to ensure that our teachers are utilizing the technology in the most effective way possible to support the instruction, but also make sure that our community is getting a balanced approach, right? We're adding more technology, but it's something, and I believe Mr. Palumbo alluded to this quite nicely, is that we, as well as Mr. Mara, we really want a balance. We want a balance across all three buildings. So while we continue to use more technology in the classroom, we're looking for instructional technology support to ensure that our teachers are not only identifying the appropriate tools, but also utilizing them effectively. And so we've, of course, been doing that work, but the proposal to the community and to the board is to continue with that support to ensure that our teachers are prepared to bring the tools in to create the most educationally and developmentally appropriate experience possible.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Mr. Chow, could you talk to us a little bit about the lunch programs here at Pleasantville and how that impacts us?
Sure. So the most important thing here is that the school lunch budget is not part of the general fund budget. It's has to be kept totally separate. And then also another important thing to understand is that for the school lunch program, it cannot be funded by the school district. So the school lunch program has to be self-sufficient. And right now, I cannot tell you too much about the budget. The reason is because the last 3 years were not the ordinary years. I'm just writing it down for 2019, 2020, that school year, as you know, that the school ended on March 13th. And then for 2021, we were able to get free lunch for all the students. And for the 21-22 school year, the current school year, our elementary school and middle school students are getting free lunch, and our high school, we are actually charging the students, but again, it is self-sufficient. So whatever is needed, the students and the staff, if they are buying lunch, is supporting that program. But we already know for the 22-23 school year, the free lunch program is going to end. So we will come and put together a budget for the coming school year. And we'll probably work on that in the summertime.
Great, thank you. Just wanted to end by saying thank you to all of the participants. Thank you to my fellow panelists for a wonderful morning. And wanted to say that if you have any further comments, you can contact the district clerk, myself, or Mr. Chow, and we'd be happy to discuss any parts of this budget that are of concern or of interest or that you have a question about. So thank you so much for spending your morning with us. Thank you to the PTAs and the PCOs and SEPTA for partnering with us. And we will have another opportunity for a budget forum on Thursday evening, 7 p.m. live in person in the Pleasantville High School auditorium. Did I say that twice? All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on Thursday.